I enlisted as soon as I was old enough. I'd been in the cadets and I was proud to be a patriot and a volunteer. I wanted to be a soldier and I enjoyed my training at Trentham. It's hard to understand now why we were so excited. We thought we were heading off to some great adventure. My mum was not that heavy, but my sisters thought I was marvellous and came to the ship to wave me off. We were young and fit, and we expected to be home by Christmas. Of course, that wasn't how it worked out. Even when you're in the right, war's a terrible business. They said if a bullet had your name on it, you would get it. And eventually I did. A bullet goes clean through you, but shrapnel, it ripped you up. I got it in my right side, mostly in my leg. Well, they patched me up there and shipped me back to England. It was 3 months before I went home to New Zealand. Well, coming home was not what you'd think. People met the ship in Wellington and sure, they cheered to see us, but you could see the shock on their faces. We must have looked a sorry lot. By the time I got home, it wasn't just my leg that was giving me jip. I was having nightmares and I couldn't concentrate on anything. I was told I would be sent to convalesce in Hanmer. There were 6 of us put on the train from Christchurch to Culverden. A motor car took us the rest of the way. I couldn't have landed in a better place.
When Mr. Rutherford opened his Red Cross hospital at the lodge, I was one of the first to volunteer. I lived in Hamner and I was 17 years old. We were a small country village with a few shops, accommodation houses, farms, and of course the hot springs. We all had war fever, and at first the newspapers reported how well our colonial soldiers were doing. But then we started to see the sick and the wounded coming home. It was shocking, to be honest. Some of the men were quite broken, and not just their bodies. They put on a brave face, though. Matron told us that it was our duty to stay cheerful for the men. We were VADs, for Voluntary Aid Detachment. But I know some of the men called us various assorted darlings. Oh, that made us laugh. In 1916, they decided to build a large hospital here in Hamner, as there were so very many sick men coming back now. Hamner seemed to do the soldiers such a lot of good, with its fresh air and its hot springs. The Queen Mary Hospital opened on the 3rd of June 1916, and it was a splendid occasion. Officials came from all over the country. They travelled to Culverden on the train, and then there were 40 motor cars. At that time, that was the most motor cars ever seen in one place in the South Island. The Minister of Health, Mr. Russell, performed the opening, and Mr. Dodd, he owned the local store, gave him a silver key from all of us in the village. I served at that luncheon. There was toast after toast to the Queen, to the soldiers, to the government, to the army, and of course, a toast to the ladies. The new hospital had their own orderlies, so we girls were no longer needed. We all still did what we could for the soldiers, taking them on picnics, organising concerts, that sort of thing. The soldiers mostly never talked about the war. It wasn't until years later that people understood what those poor boys had been through.
I was one of the first officers at Queen Mary Hospital. The early days were a bit rough. The buildings were finished and looked wonderful, but it was a couple of years before you could call it an efficiently run hospital. In those early days, we hung clothes on nails in the wall, and we were constantly battling for supplies. I can say this now. It was British Disorganised, being jointly run by the Defence Department and the Public Health Department. The people of Hanmer were generous though. They would visit the soldiers, donate goods, save for the men, and hold fundraisers. We never went without. The only time we came close was the big snow in 1918. We had to shovel the roofs every day to stop them from collapsing. The windows were covered, which made it dark inside. The papers reported we were living off condensed milk, but it wasn't quite that bad. It was not just food people gave. They donated things they thought would help the soldiers. Books for the library, golf clubs, tennis rackets, a billiards table, and fishing rods. Recreation became such an important part of the men's treatment, helping them to forget.
I was a medical advisor at the hospital. In the early days, our treatment was to give the men plenty of rest and recreation. They had massages, used the thermal baths, and the fresh air and sunshine worked wonders. We took men with any type of illness or wound. Some were missing limbs, some blind or deaf, and then there were those with shattered nerves, what people called shell shock. We found a strict routine helped, and if they were able to, the men had to do training classes or work. Ideally, something that would help them get back into the workforce, like motor engineering or wool classing. We also had the men do craft work, such as basket weaving and rug making. The hospital owned a farm which we used to teach some basic horticulture and agriculture. Towards the end of the war, we had 2 doctors who were sent to England to train in the new field of psychotherapy. We also brought in trained nurses, and it was really then that we became a mature specialist hospital.
I was in a bad way when I arrived at Queen Mary. I was thin as a rake, pale and shivering. I couldn't even walk across the lawn without my heart racing. Most of us were there for 6 to 12 weeks. We had our therapies, but we had fun too. We did get better, but the truth is, the shadow of the war never really leaves you. Most of us managed to get on and make a life for ourselves. In Hanmer? Well, the mountains, the forests, sunshine and fresh air of that place did all of us the world of good.